Welcome, everyone, to the Fandom Podcast Network special presentation of Time Warp, where we cover the movies and pop culture of an entire year. In these year's episodes of Time Warp, we'll cover the year of 1990 pop culture, which includes the movies, TV, music, and notable news events. The 1990 movies, pop culture, and events are all celebrating their 35th anniversary as of this recording. Welcome to Time Warp 1990. We're going to be discussing the month of May. Some bangers here on this month, guys. Bangers. So anyway, you know, guys, I don't do this alone here, and I want to bring on, of course, my cast and crew here, and I kind of bring you guys in here for Time Warp. Let's go ahead and let's start with the queen of movie foo, Lacey Adderhold. Welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you. Feels like it's been a while since the last.
It has. It's been a minute. I am going to try and hold out. My voice has been a little bit neglected because of my sinusitis, but I am getting back to it, and I am chock full of cough drops. So we'll see how this goes.
Appreciate you, struggling through this and soldiering on. So I appreciate that as always. So yeah. Well, with us, as always, is my co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, the badass man himself, Mr. Kyle Wagner. Welcome, sir.
I was wondering when you were going to bring me in. I feel like I was traveling like a bird on a wire. But no, I have come to this episode from the dark side with a major decision on my hands. Do I cowboy up like Marty McFly, or do I drive around an army base with panties on my head like Nicolas Cage?
I am the best.
I know I am the greatest.
I am the greatest. That's right. We'll get to that later. This, of course, is Time Warp podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we like to celebrate an entire year of movies here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Hit our QR code there. It takes us straight to our website. We'd appreciate the support. And, of course, there's my awesome Time Warp crew in the den of Lacey awesomeness of all of her movies. There it goes. Yeah. Time Warp 1990, guys. We're also going to be talking about the shows, but we do want to remind you what else is happening here on Time Warp. And, of course, previously, we've done some fun Time Warp stuff here. We've done a Buffy special, done a special with Raiders players who were acting. And, of course, last year we covered all of the movies of 1984 and did a fun time talking about all of that. But we are discussing the movies of 1990. And we're almost halfway through the first season, first half of the year, Of course, last month, we did April. I'll get my words together here. And we are in May, and we got a little teaser there of what's coming in 1990. If you're watching the video, you'll see that. But
Kevin, have you been traveling through the Time Warp without telling us? You seem a little confused on your dates.
I know. 1990, 1984, 1990. It all starts to wrap together, but one of the things I do love about doing this podcast with you guys is we learn a lot about the pop culture, and I feel like we're going to be like those old people in their old folks home, and we're going to be talking about just random trivia, and we're going to be annoying the F out of people.
We're a lot closer to that than we are the other direction, Kevin. Come on now.
This is true. Okay, so guys, before we move any forward here, let's go ahead and let's take a step back in time to 1990. Let's fuel up that DeLorean with the flux capacitor, slingshot around the sun aboard a captured Klingon bird of prey, step into that blue police box or phone booth, or step into that quantum leap accelerator, or take a dip in that hot tub time machine as we travel back to 1990. We're going to remind you what was happening in pop culture, sports, politics, television, and of course, the movies. 1990. May 1990, guys. We've got some stuff that's been happening in world news. Take you back, let you know, things were happening elsewhere, and some important things here and some interesting things. May 2nd, in London, a man brandishing a knife robs a courier of bearer bonds worth 292 million pounds, the second largest mugging to date. I like how that's like listed as a mugging, not as like, a heist. Really? Is it really a heist? I don't know.
Well, he's only robbing a courier, so it feels like more of a mugging. A heist involves a little bit more, I think.
I would think
where's George? Wait, where's George Clooney and Brad Pitt to define this for us when we need
Lacey, do you think diamonds were like the biggest snatch, that was taken? Oh, shout out to another.
I want to know why anyone trusted 292 million pounds with a courier. When you have 292 million pounds, you hire 6 bodyguards and you take it yourself.
Well, one thing I know working in the jewelry industry, sometimes if you think it's one person and they have a nondescript look or a thing, it sometimes feels safer. But that's why I was wondering if like diamonds or rare gems was like, the second largest mugging to date. I'm wondering what it could be worth more. I don't know. May 19th, the U.S. and USSR agreed to end production of chemical weapons and to destroy most of their stockpiles of chemical weapons. And May 29th of May 1990, Boris Yeltsin is elected as the first ever elected president of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic.
If we only knew what was to come much later on.
I know, right? Guys, let's go ahead and get into 1990s toys, tech, and products. All right, or as the Joker likes to say, where does he get all those wonderful toys? So the first thing we got on the docket here, guys, this one was pretty darn cool. I don't know if I had this version, but I did have another version. This is the Batman Batmobile with launching turbo missile and pop-out exhaust flame. Like Beetlejuice, yet another historical nostalgic film of 89 launched a toy line that exploded in 1990. The almighty Kenner was responsible for the glorious Batcave, Batmobile, and figures that some of us still treasure to this very day. The Batjet, Joker Cycle Under the Tree that year with the Batcave had obtained for people's enjoyment. Guys, do you remember this big one here, the one that had the exploding front? Did you have this, Kyle or Lacey?
I did not have. I remember I did not have it. Part of the problem with these Batman movie toys was they came out a lot later after the film. And it wasn't just but a year, maybe 2 years later, they kind of got pushed to the side because the phenomenal figures from Batman the Animated Series and vehicles started coming out, and these kind of got lost in the ether between those.
Interesting. I don't remember. I wasn't collecting those, but that makes a lot of sense because of how popular that cartoon series was. Lacey, did you have one of these Batmobiles under the Christmas tree?
No, I was not so much into... I think at this point I was away from, toys more than anything else. I mean, this is 90, so I'm 16, 17.
Right. I think I had a generic version of the Batmobile. I don't remember if it was this one or if it was like a model. Maybe it was a model like by Revell or something like that. I can't remember which one it was, but I just love that iconic 89 Batmobile. All right, we got some tech here, guys. And Kyle, I might need you to clarify this for me. So what we have is the Compact Disc Interactive CD-I, later CD-little I. The Compact Disc Interactive is a digital optical disc data storage format as well as a hardware platform. Co-developed and marketed by Dutch company Philips and Japanese company Sony, it was created as an extension of the CDDA and CD-ROM and specified in the Green Book specifications, co-developed by Philips and Sony to combine audio, text, and graphics. The two companies initially expected the impact of the education training, point of sale, and home entertainment industries, but the CD-little I is largely remembered today for its video games. Kyle, is this kind of what would go on into be like, Sega and all that kind of stuff?
A little bit. This was kind of the start of it. You mentioned Philips. This was kind of a big thing for them because Philips a couple of years later put out the 3DO, which was a big system kind of before PlayStation and Sega and all that.
Okay.
Really expensive. It ran like $1,000 and it flopped because it was so expensive and you could not find games for it.
So is it the CD gaming that really didn't take off because the cartridge gaming was so popular and probably more affordable that it wasn't until later when we would start getting, the Xboxes and all that kind of stuff?
The truth of the matter is the PlayStation really launched CD gaming. If you remember, like Sega Genesis had a CD-ROM attachment to it for a while. That came out. They did a couple different versions.
I'm sorry, Zach, time out here, Kyle.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's the rule every time we say Sega?
Sega, because you can do that too. That's allowed.
Sorry, go ahead.
That is allowed. Because if you remember, with CD-ROM Interactive, Kevin, you might remember this. There was a particular game called Night Trap, which had a certain Dana Plato from Different Strokes in that caused all kinds of controversy and started much like music started getting the warning labels on it. Night Trap was a game that started putting the warning labels on video games.
Why was that, Kyle?
It just might have been a little bit more R-rated than they were. A little risque, running around in their nightgowns, a little graphic with the murder stuff, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. So it was kind of a precursor to stuff but it didn't quite take off in the 90s.
Let me put it this way. See, Kevin, from you, probably most importantly, CDI is the reason why you had Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry on your Windows 90.
This is true. Lacey.
I just want to say that it's really funny to hear the words "a little graphic with the murder stuff."
Yeah.
Because, I mean, most murder stuff is pretty graphic.
Well, usually at that point they were taking it off screen for that kind of stuff, and they really kind of didn't.
All right, guys, let's get into some products that got debuted, and we have Beano. Remember Beano, food enzyme dietary supplement? Beano is this enzyme-based dietary supplement that is used to reduce gas in the digestive tract, thereby improving digestion and reducing bloating, discomfort, and flatulence caused by gas. It contains the enzyme alpha-galactosidease. It was introduced as a liquid, but that has been discontinued on now availability only as tablets in strawberry-flavored meltaways. Beano is marketed and distributed by Prestige Consumer Healthcare Incorporated. I seem to remember this, Kyle, but I felt like it was directed towards adults.
Yeah, it was. And don't let Lacey fool you. Those aren't cough drops. She's still taking Beano.
She's still taking Beano.
These are the best things ever. They are actually little tiny goldfish.
Nice.
And
so
they taste really good. And they make my throat feel better.
So did you guys know anyone that took Beano or bought it?
I mean, I remember the commercials. I
remember the commercials.
Had it in the house. I mean, you'd think everybody's got an uncle that needs to take it, right?
Yeah. Jeez.
So maybe.
Yeah. I just always thought it was a weird name too. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, next, guys, we have celebrity birthdays. Got quite a bit here, kind of hard to read up there, so I'm just going to list them out really quickly here. We've got in May, we have Caitlin Stacey, actress in Neighbours. That is a Australian show. Kay Panabaker, of course, I remember her, actress in Summerland, Phil of the Future, American Dragon, Jake Long, Ordinary Family. Lauren Potter, actress in Glee. Sasha Spielberg, actress. Mark John Jeffries, voice actor for Fatherwood. Thomas Brody Sangster, English actor, Phineas and Ferb, Game of Thrones,
and Love Actually.
Oh yeah,
he was the kid that was desperately in love Actually.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Butler, actor for Casey Undercover. Cree Harrison, singer, American Idol. Levin Rambin, actress for All My Children and Scoundrels. We also had Luke Kleintank, actor for Gossip Girl, Young and the Restless, Bones, Pretty Little Liars, The Man in the High Castle. Crawford Wilson, voice actor for Avatar, The Last Airbender. Chris Colfer, actor for Glee. And Dean Collins, actor for Jack and Bobby and War at Home. There we go. All right. Now, we do have some notable deaths, actually, guys, in memorandum for 1990. We did lose a few people. And we're going to talk a little bit more about one of them coming up shortly. But ones that we have in this segment here, we have Pauline Fredericks, who was a journalist for ABC News and NBC News. Susan Oliver passed away from Peyton Place. Franklin Seals, actor for Dexter on Silver Spoons. Jim Henson, age 53, puppeteer for the Muppets. Sammy Davis Jr. passed away. And Vic Tayback, of course, more known as Mel Sharples on Alice. All of these celebrities passed away in May of 1990. We're going to talk a little bit more about Jim Henson. Kyle, yes.
I just wanted to say Jim Henson. I know we're going to talk about more later, but it's funny because I just watched a video from the special they did after Jim Henson died, with about the Muppets looking for Kermit, and he's showing up at the very end of it, but just gone way too young.
Yeah. And from what I remember too, it could have been
it was shocking.
Prevented. Yeah.
Well, wasn't he like jogging?
I don't know.
He was out jogging and he just fell over.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a segment though that will bring him back up, so we'll elaborate more on that. All right, guys. Next, we have 1990 music news for May. All right. First, we have May 18th. The Rolling Stones open up their Urban Jungle European tour in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I want to say too that I saw them again when they went on tour and came back around through the States. And I think this might have been this tour because this tour lasted for a while. I remember that. Next, we have She Does It This May. What is the ultimate dare? We are talking about Madonna. May 29th. In Canada, Toronto police threatened to arrest Madonna as she performs her simulated masturbation scene during her performance of Like a Virgin on her Blonde Ambition tour. Madonna refuses to change her show, and the police decide not to press charges, later denying that they had ever threatened to do so. Of course, some refuted by footage captured during the filming of Madonna's 1991 documentary, Truth or Dare. Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah, just a little bit.
We also have the Billboard Top 100, guys. We love to, of course, talk about a segment of the Billboard Top 100. And we have about 8 heroes that we like to celebrate here. This is an interesting group here, guys. There's some good stuff on here. We have at 68, Price of Love by Bad English. We have 67, Love Song by Tesla. 66, Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode. 65, Giving You the Benefit by Pebbles. 64, Free Fallin' by Tom Petty. 63, I'll Be Your Shelter by Taylor Dane. 62, The Humpty Dance by Digital Underground. And 61, Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith. Lacey, which some of these rings a bell to you that you may like?
I recognize 3 of these songs.
Which ones?
Free Fallin'.
Okay.
Tom Petty, yeah.
Yep.
The Humpty Dance and Janie's Got a Gun. Now, I could not sing a bar from any of them. I just know the names.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Kyle.
My name is Humpty. The Humpty Dance, man. Digital Underground was absolutely huge.
Yeah, it
right
was.
now. And everybody forgets Tupac was a member of the Digital Underground.
Mm-hmm.
And so that Free Fallin' by Tom Petty still lives on to this day. Janie's Got a Gun, obviously, for a lot of reasons. We're in the middle of the Taylor Dane Renaissance at this point, too. She was putting out a lot of hits in the early 90s.
Did you just say Taylor Dane Renaissance?
Yeah. Right.
That was good. Well played. Yeah, I remember the Free Fallin' video very, very well. And it was just it's a really, really good song. The other two, Humpty Dance was huge, Kyle. You're right. You said it great there in the video, and the glasses with the nose and all that kind of stuff.
That's what I was gonna say. That's the one
hump to hump. Doing the hump to hump.
The glasses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a great urban legend for a long time. He wore those glasses because he didn't have a nose. He had lost his nose in an accident or a fight or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. And the lyrics are great too. And it created, a dance phrase too, or a dance craze as well. So Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith. Great video. A little on the heavy side, but great song. But the song that is my favorite out of all of this is Love Song by Tesla. More because, well, I'm a big hair metal fan. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I co-host a hair metal podcast on this network. And when it comes to hair metal ballads, which have their own little place in music history, Love Song is number 2 on my top list of all time. Love that song. Great video. I've seen Tesla about, I think, twice in concert. They're from Northern California, and yeah, great one. Number one.
I just who knew Elon Musk could rock the hair metal hair? I mean, that's just still amazing to me. I had to do it. Somebody had to do it. I had to do it.
What sucks for me is it took me 2 seconds to figure that out. I should have gotten that right away. Yes. I will. I Remember You by Skid Row is my number one because, well, it's my wife's and I song. You know, we incorporated the lyrics to that in our wedding. So there you go. All right, guys, let's get into some TV. All right, notable TV news and TV debuts. First thing we're talking about, like I mentioned, we're going to get back. We're going to get back to talking about Jim Henson here. May 4th, 1990, Muppets creator Jim Henson makes what turns out to be his final public appearance when he appears as a guest on the Arsenio Hall show. Henson would die less than 2 weeks later. And this picture, if you're watching the video, Henson is there with Kermit, which is great. I remember watching this, but I don't remember it. I need to probably go back and watch it on YouTube and see this. But his death at 54, which I'm 54 right now, Kyle, it puts things into a weird perspective. But this was a shock to everyone because he died at such a young age, Kyle.
Oh, I remember hearing it. I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
I was like, no, wait, because I had just seen that interview. They just had some kind of Muppet anniversary, I think, was not that far before that. And at the end of that particular show, Jim Henson gets the bill. They said, like, Scooter hands Jim Henson the bill. I remember that. Yeah. But no, I mean, and the world lost one of its most creative minds in Jim Henson. Not just, but we're talking just the entertainment aspect of it. This man was insanely creative, insanely intelligent, and affected so many people, especially for those of us of a certain age growing up with this. And to this day, the Muppets are still a very popular thing. But I mean, the 80s, the Muppets were everywhere. I mean, you had the Muppet Show in the 70s, which still holds up to this day, I think.
Sesame Street. Yeah.
Sesame Street. Yeah, just so much. And I mean, Jim Henson changed entertainment.
Lacey, I want to ask you in just a second. You mentioned about how he died, but before I just want to mention real quick to the listeners and the viewers, make sure you check out the documentary. I believe it's on Disney Plus. I'm forgetting the name of the documentary on Jim Henson. Do you guys remember?
Jim Henson passed away from bacterial pneumonia.
Yeah, from toxic shock syndrome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It shocked us all. I felt like a little bit of our childhood died.
I mean, Jim Henson's contribution is up there with, Mr. Rogers and LeVar Burton and Bob Ross. Like, for me, these are the ones where if you put the four of them on a thing and said one of them had to go, I'd be like, no. Just the answer is no.
And what's interesting too, and I was watching that Jim Henson, and forgive me, I can't remember the name of it, but it's on Disney Plus. I was watching that documentary. And I didn't realize that the Muppet Show was all shot in England, because he was given an offer to do that, and thus several of the Muppet movies were, of course, filmed there, and they did some traveling outside of it. But I had no idea until recently. That totally just blew my mind. Yeah.
It's called Idea Man.
Idea Man. Thank you, Lacey. Thank you. Idea Man. Just a wonderful, wonderful documentary. Make sure you guys check that out. Rest in peace, Jim Henson.
Produced by Ron Howard.
There you go, Ron Howard. All right, the other May notable TV events here, guys. Stephanie Kramer makes her final appearance May 7th, 1990, as Sergeant Dee Dee McCall on Hunter. I didn't watch this show religiously, Kyle. I did kind of catch reruns a little bit later, but this was a big deal. Why would she leave? And I've got a little information here. Stephanie Kramer, who played Dee Dee Call on the show Hunter, left after the 6th season in 1990 to pursue other acting and musical opportunities, according to Wikipedia. Specifically wanted to focus on her singing career, though it's also been reported that working for Fred Dreyer, who was also co-executive producer, wasn't easy. Her exit was scripted with a fake wedding to Dr. Alex Turner, marking her last appearance on the show. She also reportedly felt exhausted and wanted to explore other projects, including TV movies. Lacey, were you a fan of Hunter?
I didn't watch the show. I can't even look at this picture. Look at that makeup. Like that is straight up 1990, like on the nose. Like, everything's shimmery. There's like she's like her cheeks are hollowed out because she's too thin, because it was 1990 and you had to be too thin to be an actress. And so they have these. I mean, the makeup is awful. Like this was a terrible time in television history for people doing like.
But you didn't watch. You didn't watch the show.
I did not watch the show. I
Okay.
knew.
Kyle,
I watched it on occasion. I know, especially when it came out in the mid '80s, it was actually incredibly popular because it was kind of like NBC had the two big hit cop shows, Miami Vice and Hunter. By the time she left the show was on the decline. I don't think it lasted much longer after she had left, but I know when it was at its peak, these two were huge.
Right? Yeah. I think I've watched a few of them, but for some reason, I don't know what it was. The show just didn't quite grab me. I'm not sure why. All right, next. And I remember this, guys. I remember this very well. May 12th, comedian Andrew Dice Clay guest hosts Saturday Night Live. Cast member Nora Dunn immediately announces to the press that she was boycotting the show in protest. She stated in protest was in view of Clay's misogynistic act and did so without informing executive producer Lorne Michaels, the cast for most of the crew about her. And she also informed most of the crew about her intent. So what's interesting, too, is that Sinead O'Connor was scheduled to be the musical guest for the episode, but she also boycotted the show because of Clay's involvement, forcing the producers to find two musical replacements, one with performance by Julie Cruz and the second by Hispanic Boys. NBC censors insisted that the episode be aired with a delay to compensate for anything Clay might say on air during the live show. Some audience members were pissed off at Clay, but were immediately removed by the increased security detail. You guys remember this?
Oh,
No.
Big time.
But okay, here's the thing. Andrew Dice Clay, in my opinion, kind of led the way for people like Trey Parker, Matt Stone, South Park, that kind of thing, making fun of anyone and everyone. Like, he didn't pull any punches. He made fun of everyone.
He did.
Right? I mean, it was men, women, race, religion, age. It was everything.
I know, because I saw him live in concert.
Yeah. I mean, and so I don't, that's the thing. If you're going to be a comedian, you have your shtick. And his was, I love Andrew Dice Clay. I still love Andrew Dice Clay. Like, he's so funny. And because he's nothing that he says is
politically correct.
But nothing's vindictive. Nothing's everything is, just a pinch of salt. You take it with a grain of salt. Like, it's what the shtick is. You know what you're getting into when you listen to him. And he's hilarious. And he's taking a lot of that the insult on himself by being that guy, right?
Yeah,
and I think that, and that's why even when he did the movie Casual Sex with Leah Thompson and Victoria
Principal
Jackson, I mean,
or Jackson, you're right, yeah, Victoria Jackson.
Like that character, he started out playing that character, and I think it's because, like, towards the end of the movie, his character softened because he realized he didn't have to be that guy, and I think that was something that he wanted to show, that he wasn't always that guy. So you see Kyle. Adventures of Ford Fairlane, all that kind of stuff. I love Andrew Dice Clay.
We'll be covering Ford Fairlane later this year because that came out in 1980. Yep. Kyle.
I think what the most interesting thing is the sliding doors moment that we could have had. Kevin, I know you're a big SNL fan. I am too. The fact that we could have had an SNL episode with Andrew Dice Clay and Sinead O'Connor, that might have exploded the set of Saturday Night Live, considering their histories with that show.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. All right, guys. We have another event here. May 18th, the made-for-TV film Return to Green Acres, which reunited Eddie Albert, Ava Gabor, and the rest of the surviving cast of the 65 through 71 sitcom series Green Acres, is broadcast on CBS. I've never seen a few of these, and my parents didn't really watch a lot of these, though, but I kind of remember this. Lacey, you remember this?
I love Green Acres. I've always loved Green Acres. the fact that the fuse box, everything had a number assigned to it, and you couldn't go over 9. Anything you could plug in anything you wanted,
Right.
but as long as it added up to less than 9.
Was that something in Green Acres that was a thing?
Yes, that's the thing. There's a whole thing about how she's used to being able to just do whatever she wants, and because she's now living in the country, she can't just like remember things. And it's just a very. This is kind of like, it's like Schitt's Creek before Schitt's Creek. It's fish out of water, where like the husband knows what he's doing, but she's completely out of her element.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, gotcha.
So funny, so good, and genuinely interesting and funny for everyone. It's not like towards children. It's not
right.
It's a really fun show, and you can still watch it today.
I seem to remember the theme song more than the actual show.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are in that way.
Kyle,
I just remember this being a big deal because the Gabors were such a big thing in the 90s too, between Ava and Jaja. I Green Acres I was never really that much into. It wasn't something I got to watch a lot in Alaska, but I remember this being kind of a hyped up big deal at the time. So yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Next, I didn't watch these shows, I'll be honest with you guys, but I remember the big deal about this. May 21st, 1990, CBS broadcast the series finale of Newhart, in which it is revealed that the entire series was really just a dream of Bob Newhart's character, Dr. Bob Hartley from the Bob Newhart Show. Lacey, I know you're a fan. Give me your thoughts on this.
Okay. I love Bob Newhart so much, whether it's Newhart or the Bob Newhart Show or Bob, which is the animated one that he did afterwards. I love him as the professor on Big Bang Theory. Like, he's just delightful. I loved the ending of this. It was so perfect that they got her. I think that's is it Zimbalist? I can't remember
Is it Stephanie Zimbalist?
I think maybe I can't. The picture's kind of blurred. I can't really tell.
Right.
But
it's Suzanne Plachette. Suzanne Plachette?
There you go. Suzanne Plachette. Like, the fact that they got her to come back after like 8 years to like do this little like minute and a half kind of like, that's so perfect. I loved it. It was great.
Kyle, did you ever watch the show? Do you remember this?
I remember this big time. The Newhart Show was kind of something that in Alaska, when I was growing up in Alaska, was in like syndication on some of the local channels. So we got a lot of airings of it. I kind of was familiar with the Bob Newhart Show, but I remember when this happened and people were just going bonkers over it, saying what a one of the best written endings to a comedy series ever. Just absolutely brilliant.
So it didn't work against it then, right?
No, it's considered one of the best endings to a TV show.
It wasn't the Dallas thing. Didn't Dallas?
No.
Yeah.
This almost put the Tommy Westfall thing to shame.
I don't understand that reference.
The Tommy Westfall universe, was it St. Elsewhere, when the last episode you find out that it's the whole hospital
Snow Globe.
The Snow Globe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't watch that show, so I didn't.
Gotcha.
All right, one more. I think we got another notable event here, guys.
Yeah, this is important.
May 25th, the series finale of You Can't Do That on Television broadcast on Nickelodeon for its 10th and final season. Only 5 episodes are produced, tying 1990 with 87 as the shortest season of the series, with production ending in February. This is also one of the rare times in television where a show's cast and producers knew that they would not be coming back, allowing them to make several in-jokes and references to this being the final show of the series, despite it not being a proper finale. Though ratings decline, Nickelodeon continues to air reruns until January 1994, at which point is only aired on weekends. Kyle, I know you have a lot to say about this. I just want to say that I feel like I caught a lot of those reruns in the 90s because I didn't have Nickelodeon at the time because that was a special channel, something like that. So I was actually watching a lot of the reruns. I didn't watch a lot of this live. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I grew up on You Can't Do That on television. I had Nickelodeon. It was one of the few channels we did getting cable when we got cable in Alaska. This show, you grew up with 2 Canadian shows if you're a certain age. It's You Can't Do That on television and Degrassi.
Yes.
I grew up on You Can't Do That on Television. They were pretty cutting edge for a kid show. They had some interesting humor. There were several of the cast members who left and then were brought back because they were so popular. Of course, it is the origin of the famous Nickelodeon green slime. That is where it started. Of course, you also said water, and you got dumped with water. And of course, You Can't Do That on Television is also famous for bringing us Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
but this was a perennial show on Nickelodeon for a very long time. And to this day, if you grew up in the 80s, you probably have seen You Can't Do That on television. And like I said, it was a bold show for what it was at the time, considering it was meant to be a kid's show. But they pushed the envelope.
Lacey, do you remember You Can't Do That on Television? You remember it ending?
I remember it being on because my sister is 5 years younger than me. And she would watch this and Pinwheel, I think, were the two I
remember Pinwheel
shows, but so it was like Pinwheel, and then You Can't Do That on television. So I remember that being a show. I don't remember seeing the show. I'm sure I did because my sister had it on, and it'd be one of those things,
It's so funny you guys mentioned Pinwheel because we're going to be discussing that next month. Mm-hmm. I was just updating the notes on that, so that's funny. Yeah. All right, next, guys, we have some 1990 May debuts, and May 1st we have Brewster's Place, a spin-off the 1989 miniseries The Women of Brewster's Place, which was based upon Gloria Naylor's novel of the same name. It starred Oprah Winfrey, Brenda Presley, and Olivia Cole. And Oprah Winfrey and Olivia Cole are the only ones who played in both the movie and the TV series, playing the same character. Now, I find this fascinating because if this show takes off, does Oprah become Oprah? You know what I mean? Talk show.
I think that's inevitable.
Oprah's too Oprah to stay not Oprah. She's got that. I mean, she even now, she just has that kind of bold, that was coming out whether she wanted it to or not.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Personality, yeah.
I just wonder if there was a what if sliding door situation there.
I can make this easy for you, Kevin. The only thing that let me put it this way: the only thing that might be more inevitable than Oprah is Thanos, and it's neck and neck.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. All right, the next show we have here is Tailspin, the Disney Channel. This cast key characters from the Jungle Book from 1967 into a 1930s Pacific setting where Baloo is a bush pilot who finds himself as part of a struggling courier company. Voice actors Ed Gilbert, R.J. Williams, and Sally Struthers. Originally, the role of Baloo was supposed to go to Phil Harris, who had voiced the character in Jungle Book 1967. However, during the first recording session, it was found that Harris, who was by then 85 years old, had aged to the point to where he could no longer do the voice successfully, and the role was performed by veteran voice actor Ed Gilbert. I have no memory of this show whatsoever. Do you guys, Kyle?
Oh, I consider this what I call when Disney owned after-school afternoons. It started with DuckTales, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, and then Tailspin came out.
This is the Disney Channel, right?
Well, no. But then a lot of this went into syndication too.
Okay,
usually a Disney syndicated block.
Gotcha.
Tailspin's theme song might be the second most catchiest theme song behind the DuckTales theme song.
Can you sing that for us, Kyle? Because I have no memory.
Spin it. That's how it started. I'm not going to get no trouble with Disney people though.
Okay, that's true. Good call.
I am too close to the headquarters. But no, this was a fun little show, and this is, like I said, this is when Disney was owning afternoon animation. Like I said, DuckTales, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, those kind of shows.
Scrooge McDuck.
This was a whole era of Disney, and it was a great era.
Yes. All right. Lacey, do you have a comment on Tailspin?
Yeah, this is, again, my sister watched this. I remember I can hear the song in my head still. It's very much an earwig. But yeah, we didn't have the Disney Channel at that point. I don't even know if there was a Disney Channel yet. I think
there was. Yeah, Disney Channel's been around since the early 80s.
Anyway, we did not have the Disney Channel while we were growing up, at least not to my remembrance. But Yeah, so I remember in the afternoons, I would come home and I would want to watch the Brady Bunch. My sister, we'd always argue over.
Yeah, I was watching
cartoons.
I was watching other stuff, so I never caught those.
Mm-hmm.
Next, guys.
I am the baby of the podcast, guys.
All right. Next, we have America's Funniest People, May 13th, debut on ABC, a TV show that presents home videos of weird people doing all kinds of funny things. Hosts were Lindsay Ridgway, Dave Coulier, Shannon Radigan. As America's Funniest Home Videos gained in popularity, the producers found that many people were starting to stage their own situations rather than depending on a random chance to grant them a winning shot. The program was created to give these amateur film producers a chance to show off their creativity and perhaps win the $100,000 grand prize. I vaguely remember the show, but I'm kind of trying to put the timeline here together, guys. So the really important question here, is Dave Coulier dating Alanis Morissette that then leads to the events of the song You Ought to Know? That's what I'm trying to figure out here, guys. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Lacey, do you know what I'm talking about?
This time.
Okay, I had a long conversation with a friend of mine because I did not remember who this was. I didn't. I mean, her. I didn't recognize the song. She was trying to. Anyway.
Jagged Little Pill, one of the biggest albums of the 90s. And
that's fine. But unless you had like big hair and a codpiece, I wasn't listening to you.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not trying to be. I just, I was into all the heavy metal stuff.
I got you. The biggest rumor, I guess, is that she wrote that song because of her breakup with Dave Coulier, of course, who goes on to Full House and makes a name.
Dave Coulier apparently, kind of cheated on her. So
yeah. So yeah. All right. We got a little bit of TV that was ending this year as well, guys, and the list it's kind of big here.
Oh wow!
TV series that were ending. Just the 10 of Us, which started in '88. 227 was the place to be. 1985 it started. Booker from 1989. Booker only lasted a year.
Was it one season?
Yeah. Alien Nation ended on May 7th. The TV series, sad about that too. Also ended in May, the famous Teddy Z. We kind of talked about that earlier. War of the Worlds TV series. Falcon Crest started in '81. Newhart, as we mentioned. Can't Do That television, as we mentioned. Friday the 13th, the TV series, which started in '87. And this is the one I was really sad about, was the Tracy Ullman show. I was a big fan of that. Only lasted a couple of years. Kyle.
This is an interesting thing of shows because I remember Just the 10 of Us because it spun out of Growing Pains. And, of course, it brought us a couple of pretty Brooke Feast and Jamie Luner came out of the show and had pretty big careers after this. The Friday the 13th series was actually quite popular. That was kind of a pretty good cult following. But Kevin, I got to talk about War of the Worlds. It was a syndicated show. It was actually a very good show. Season 2 added none other than Mr. Adrian Paul.
What's funny is I learned that later. I had no memory of this TV series at all, but I did remember that later regarding Adrian Paul, who of course went on to be the television series of Highlander star. So yeah.
And what's crazy is there was a big time jump in the series between the end of season 1 and the season 1 ended on a pretty big cliffhanger they weren't sure about, and then it takes a big time jump to where we're kind of under alien control in season 2, and the world is a much different place.
Lacey, comments on the TV that's ending?
The Tracy Ullman show, I'm wondering, this was 1990. Do we already have The Simpsons at this point?
Oh, yes. We do.
Yeah.
Did they start in 88?
I think it was 88, 80. Yeah, I think they're around maybe 87.
So for me, 90. I love the Tracy Ullman show, but as long as I had The Simpsons, I was cool.
Simpsons came out in 89, December 17th, 1989 was the first episode.
Thank you for looking that up, Kyle. Appreciate that. Yeah, nice.
I feel like we kind of did like a trade-in, and I feel like we did okay.
Yeah,
I think we won.
Yeah, no, I agree. I miss Tracy Ullman. She's great. So.
Oh, love her. But
All right, we like to highlight a couple of the top TV shows of 1990, and the two that we're going to highlight here is In the Heat of the Night was ranked number 21 out of the top 30, averaging 14 8.9 million viewers. The cases and adventures of the police forces in and around Sparta, Mississippi. Of course, stars Carol O'Connor, Alan Autry, David Hart, and Howard E. Rawlings Jr. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of.
I've seen a few, and still one of the greatest theme songs of all time.
Okay. And then next we have Major Dad. A hard-nosed conservative Marine impulsively proposes to the liberal reporter doing a story on him and agrees to help her raise her 3 daughters. Stars Gerald McRaney, Shauna Reed, Nicole Dubeck, and Chelsea Hertford. I remember seeing several of these episodes. I wasn't a major viewer of this. Kyle, were you?
I wasn't a major viewer, but the thing I remember about Major Dad was CBS had this really weird night where they programmed like 3 or 4 shows that they were kind of auditioning. Major Dad was one. A show we talked about in an earlier episode of Time Warp, Baghdad Cafe, was one of those shows as well. And they all kind of came out at the same night. And Major Dad seemed to be the biggest hit out of all that. It was just kind of weird because you didn't see a major network debut this many shows like on one evening.
So there's kind of a weird thing going on here. I just thought was interesting in the trivia. It ended its run in 1993. Canceled alongside Designing Women in the Golden Palace. Isn't Joe McCraney married to one of the Designing Women? Delta Burke.
Yeah.
So doesn't that kind of suck that both you and your wife both lost their jobs the same year?
I'm pretty sure that neither of them were like hurting for money.
True, very true. But those are both very popular TV series, so that's just that interesting.
I think
they're actually maybe they were happy and they took a little big long vacation together or something like that.
Right, and Designing Women was definitely syndicated for like decades afterward. It's probably still on.
And Major Dad had a good syndicated run too, so
yeah, that's true.
I think them checks were still coming in.
All right, guys. Well, we have one segment left, and that is the movie segment. This is the Fandom Podcast Network, and you're watching and listening to Time Warp, the movies of 1990. We're talking about May. But first, we have some celebrity film debuts that we'd like to highlight. We have, of course, Debbie Mazar in Goodfellas, John McConnell in Miller's Crossing, my boy Neil McDonough in Darkman, and these are films we'll be talking about soon, and Andrew Bierniarski in Dragonfight. I know I butchered that last name. That's a tough one. I can't place his face. Do you guys know who that is? Yes, Kyle.
I just have to give Neil McDonough love because I'm to this day think he is one of the most underrated, underappreciated actors of the modern era.
Oh, God.
There's nothing he can't do. He can play the bad guy like he did in the Rock's remake of Walking Tall, whether he was the bad guy in Arrow. I've seen him play the good guy in Marvel films. Neil McDonough is one of the greatest actors and most underappreciated actors living today.
Yeah, I just saw him recently in Tulsa King, and he was great in that. And I remember him in Star Trek First Contact. Lacey.
Yeah, but recently he has, I don't know if it's a new thing, but he has kind of sort of taken a left turn. He's doing all religious stuff now.
I've noticed that. Yes. I got sucked into watching one of those on the big screen.
Yeah. No,
didn't realize I was doing. I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think he was fantastic as Damien Dark on Arrow. Like he had a great run as Damien Dark. Dum Dum Dugan, come on, like he's
Dum Dum Dugan, yeah.
Right. I mean, he's a DC villain and a Marvel hero. Like, come on.
yeah, absolutely great.
And he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's done Dragon Con a few times.
All right, guys, let's get into some Time Warp, the actual movies. All right, we are discussing May. This was an interesting month, guys. Some interesting movies that we're going to talk about. And the first one we're going to talk about here is a movie called Happy Together. Now, I do have to make a little note about this. Technically, when you look this up on IMDb, it says 1989. But it was released in another country briefly. It didn't hit the States until May of 1990. Thus is why I'm including this film in here. And I wanted to include it because I thought it was an interesting movie. It's a romantic comedy, made only about $100,000 in its original theatrical run here. Stars Patrick Dempsey and Helen Slater, and also Dan Schneider. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Christopher leaves.
Let's not.
Christopher leaves to pursue a career in writing. A computer mix-up assigns him to share a room with Alex, whom he presumes is just another guy. But Alex is a beautiful, outgoing Alexandra. At first, she gets on his nerves by partying and being with many different guys. While Christopher tries to get another roommate, Alex helps him in different ways by improving his love life and writing ability. They gradually fall in love with each other, but Alex has a boyfriend, Slash, who comes back for her. When Slash puts her name on the wall of the men's bathroom, she realizes she is better off with Chris. Director Mel Damsky, writer Craig Nuvis, stars Patrick Dempsey, Helen Slater, Dan Schneider, and Brad Pitt has a small little role in this, but I did have to throw that in there. I could not, by the life of me, find a copy of this on DVD. It is available on VHF in certain areas, but I did find a okay copy on YouTube. Kyle, you had something you want to say? You raised your hand. What'd you got?
Yeah, a couple of things here. First of all, when it comes time for soul collecting and it's Patrick Dempsey's turn, it's going to be ugly because this man has been with some of the most beautiful co-stars throughout history. I'm just saying. And two, I think I know why there is a hard time finding this anywhere because of a certain actor who is in this, and I think people are hesitant anymore to put out anything that he might have starred in.
Okay, hold on a second. So you're talking about Dan Schneider, who obviously, well, there's a documentary about his years of running Nickelodeon TV series, and he did some weird, crappy stuff, and people that he hired did even worse, crappy stuff, abused kids and stuff like that. It's a horrible scenario. But Kyle, I did have to ask about that though, because first of all, this stuff didn't come to fruition at the time. And also, he had just and may still be doing Head of the Class. And
you're just wrapping up or it just ended. I can't remember.
Yeah, so his this is one of those things that came out on VHS, but it didn't hit DVD. And I think there might have been other issues why this didn't come out on DVD. I don't think it did well. It probably was too expensive because that thing only made $100,000 in the theater. So I think trying to reissue it nowadays, those are reasons why people won't want to touch it. And also, too, guys, his character, Dan Schneider, actually walks around with a mannequin and is in a relationship with it.
Yeah.
At the time, it was cute and funny. Now it's like, maybe there's more to this than meets the eye.
If you take out the Dan Schneider part of this, the movie's actually kind of cute. I'll be honest with you.
If you take out the Dan Schneider part of it, the movie's only 76 minutes long.
I'm fine with that. Nowadays, I'm fine with that. Lacey, have you seen... Oh, wait, before I do that, Kyle, please give us some trivia.
Really on one big thing. This film is based on the musical Cabaret.
There you go. I know they sing from it as well, I think, if I remember correctly. Lacey, have you seen this movie?
Yes. This was on, I don't know, TBS or whatever, Channel 46 or whatever. It was kind of one of those ones that would kind of replay every couple of weeks on, at 6 o'clock or something. And I remember, because this is prime babysitting years for me. I remember getting to a point where I would take a book with me to go read while I babysat, because every time I babysat on a Friday or Saturday night, there would be the same movie. This is the movie that played every weekend. And I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I can't watch it. Not because it wasn't a
So you've seen it. You've seen it.
Like 400 times I've seen this movie.
Do you like it?
It was cute. It was fun. The first 6 times. It was great. After that, don't get me wrong. It's fun. It's cute. But you can only watch it so many times before you're like, I'm going to read some Tolstoy.
Kyle?
I've honestly never seen this. I didn't even hear about this movie actually until you put it in the notes. So.
I did not know this movie existed until I did the research for this. And I'm like, Patrick Dempsey, Helen Slater, got to check it out. But yeah, very hard to find on physical media. I know there's, like I said, there's some VH copies floating around, and yeah. So, all right. Next, guys, we have Short Time, comedy, theatrical, and made about $4 million in its original theatrical run. Detective Bert Simpson thinks he's got 2 weeks to live, But if he can get killed in the line of duty, his family will be set for life. That's what the poster says. Getting killed isn't as easy as it looks. Bert Simpson, Dabney Coleman, is nearing retirement, and he finds that he has a disease that will kill him within days. He then finds that his life insurance only pays off if he is killed in the line of duty. In order to leave something to his wife and children, Simpson becomes super cop, ignoring danger and trying his best to get killed. Stars Dabney Coleman, Matt Frewer, and Terry Garr as his wife. Matt Frewer is his partner. Kyle, give us some trivia on Short Time.
Yeah, the building at the climax of the movie is the same one used in the climax of True Lies, and many of the shots are similar to this later film. Also, for a promotional item, there was a pair of boxer shorts, white with Short Time written in red all over them. The scene where Detective Simpson is at the doctor's office where he's wearing just boxer shorts and his dress shirt is why they gave away the boxers as a promotion item. And finally, despite a Region 2 DVD release by Carlton International Media UK in 2002, the film was never released on a Region 1 DVD. It only had a VHS, and for you, Kevin, a Laserdisc release by Live Home Video in the US.
Well, I did want to say it is on YouTube. I found it and watched it that way. And Lacey, I want to start with you first. Have you seen Short Time? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I will watch Dabney Coleman do anything. He's hilarious. He's grumpy. He's gruff. He's endearing. He's got all of the things, and this was hilarious. It kind of feels like it's like the police action comedy version of Breaking Bad in 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Kyle, your thoughts? Have you seen Short Time?
It's been a long time since I've seen Short Time, but what sticks out with me too is I love Dabney Coleman. He's one of the top actors of the 80s. I think you can't watch an 80s film and not have Dabney Coleman's pop up somewhere, but this movie did kind of feel like the end of his run in a way. Like this was the last real starring role, leading man role that I remember Dabney Coleman having. This movie did not do great in the box office, if I remember correctly, and it just feels like after this, Dabney Coleman, we would still see him, but nowhere near like we did through the 80s.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't great, but it was an interesting premise, and especially when he goes into full super cop and he's trying to get killed and he's scaring the crap out of criminals, like this guy's crazy, and the car chase that he did where it's just slowly falling apart as he's doing the car chase. Interesting, but there's some very sweet moments because he's kind of a dick dad and a dick husband, but when he starts going through things, and then when he starts to show his appreciation towards Terry Garr, his wife, and the things that he says to her, it's very sweet. And he also gets closer to his son, and so going through these experiences, it's predictable, but it's sweet. And the way Dabney Coleman kind of changes and he learns his life, he tries to live it better and stuff. When he, towards the end, when he finds out what happens, because there's a mix-up at the hospital of the test that they take. It's very sweet towards the end, and I recommend it. And it's free on YouTube if you'd like to watch it. So there you go. Kyle, yeah, did you have something else to say?
No, I'm sorry. No, good.
Okay, cool.
You're good.
All right, the next film we have here is Tales from the Darkside, the movie. Made a little over $16 million in its theatrical run. 4 ghoulish fables and 1 modern nightmare. From Michael McDowell, George Romero, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Stephen King comes Tales from the Darkside, the movie. 3 short movies bounded together by a 4th tale in which the other stories are read. The first segment features an animated mummy stalking selected student victims. The second tale tells a story of a cat from hell who cannot be killed and leaves a trail of victims behind it. The third story is about a man who witnesses a bizarre killing and promises never to tell what he saw. And the in-between bit is the story of a woman prepared to cook her newspaper boy for supper. I just saw this for the first time, guys, with Aaron. I'd never seen it before, so it's very fresh in my mind. Stars Debbie Harry, Matthew Lawrence, Christian Slater, Steve Buscemi, Julianne Moore. Several more. We'll get into that later.
Buster Poindexter.
Yes, that's right. Buster Poindexter himself. Yes. And what's his name? James Remar. He's in it as well. Ray Don Chong.
Debbie Harry.
Yeah, Deborah Harry. Deborah Harry's the witch in the beginning that is getting ready to cook the newspaper kid, and newspaper kid. The premise is that he's like, wait, before you kill me, I got this great book, and he's reading the stories, and she's a witch. So yeah.
And the newspaper kid being a very young Matthew Lawrence.
Yes, very young Matthew Lawrence.
Whom
Kyle,
I met last 2 weekends ago.
You met Matthew Lawrence? Whoa!
Yeah. Well, yeah. All three.
You see what I did there? You see what I did there?
Yes, I met Matthew and Joey and Andrew, and they were all super sweet. They have like made a deal with the devil because I don't know how they're not aging.
Yeah.
It's like Paul Rudd level of not aging. It's insane.
Paul Rudd. Yeah, Paul Rudd. That's the Paul Rudd elixir. We don't talk about it.
Kyle, give us some trivia on Tales from the Dark Side, the movie.
Before I give some trivia, because I think it's important, I want to bring up my point about this film, because the thing with Tales of the Dark Side, much like Creepshow and The Twilight Zone, the 80s TV these were very popular type shows on these, like Twilight Zone, kind of scary, but not like, oh my God, it's going to put me
right
into nightmares.
Tame scary. Yeah,
tame scary.
When these except came for out, one episode of the Twilight Zone with the Vietnam recall.
Yeah. But when they put the movies out, there was something about these movies. They were still not like full-on horror type films, but they had some elements in that really kind of played with your head. Tales from the Dark Side, the short with James Remar and Radon Chong, that section, that was really creepy. And
that was the third story. Yeah,
that was the third story. But it's just so interesting to go back with these, especially with the piece of trivia I'm about to read to you, because it gets even more interesting. But first and foremost, Kevin, you mentioned Julianne Moore. This was her feature film debut. So very interesting. But here's where things get even more interesting. Tales from the Dark Side of the movie is considered by many fans and Tom Savini himself to be the official Creepshow 3. Following the success of Stephen King and George A. Romero's Creepshow in 1982, Laurel Entertainment, Creepshow, and Creepshow 2's 1987 production company toyed with the idea of a Creepshow television series. After several negotiations and changes due to rights holders, etc., the decision was made to change the title for the series to Tales from the Dark Side, to be helmed by none other than Creepshow director and Creepshow 2 screenwriter George A. Romero. After the series' great success just roughly 3 short years after Creepshow 2 hit theaters, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, came to fruition in 1990 as the successor to the original 2 Creepshow installments, sharing many of the same crew as the Creepshow installments.
That's cool. I did not know that. Yeah. It's funny, of the 3. So the first one is The Mummy, and that has Steve Buscemi and Christian Slater in it.
And don't
not that scary.
Julianne Moore, and yes. I think Aaron Sedgwick, Kyra Sedgwick's older brother.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not scary, but fun. I found it more funny, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The second one that had Buster Poindexter, what's his real name? Drawn a blank here.
Jonathan,
anyway.
Something with a D. Davidson.
He was also the ghost of Christmas Past in Scrooge. David Johansen.
David
Johansen.
But music nerds will know him as the lead singer of the New York Dolls punk band. So yeah, nice. That was an interesting one because it had a very Tom Savini effect, where the cat jumps inside of him and kills him from inside and then crawls back out of him. That was interesting. And I got to tell you, too, the third one with James Remar and Radon Chong, where he witnesses this demon kill someone, and the demon says, basically, I will let you live unless you tell nobody about me. And then then shortly after they leave, he sees Radon Chong and end up having a relationship and getting married and having kids. And then doesn't realize that we find out later that Radon Chong is that demon, because she reveals herself when he decides to break that promise and tell that story. I actually enjoyed these. I didn't see them at the time because I'm not a big horror fan, but you're right, Kyle. These kind of give me the feel of these TV series where it was kind of tame. It wasn't too bad,
Yeah, they ratcheted it up just enough for a movie, but they don't go full into the horror side of everything and trying to scare the living crap out of you.
I got the DVD right here, just showcasing it. That was my copy, and I found this in a thrift store, and I got it. So there you go.
I have the one on the left. The 4K just got the 4K.
Just great covers. It's 4K. Yeah. The 4K must have been really good quality to see that.
The cool thing about the 4K, there are not one, not two, but 3 commentaries on this film.
Wow.
Anthology. George Romero and the director are on one, and the second one is one of the designers and producer, and the third one is 2 like film historians who basically just talk about all the cool fun things that they loved about the movie.
Nice.
There is so much. I mean, there's like deleted scenes and interview. Like, there's so much on this DVD. It took 2.5 days to go through it.
That's
to
cool.
watch everything.
I'm glad that's extensive. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice. And even like James Remar, I mean, they had all the and Radon Chong does an interview, and like it's relatively recent. I think the interviews were in like 23 or 24. Like, this is very recent. And like Remar was saying, this is what I needed at the time. He had just come out of rehab. He was like, I had taken a break. It was kind of a mandatory thing because I needed to get sober. And Radon Chong was like, oh my gosh, I had so much fun. I got to make up with James Remar for so long. And she was like, look at those eyes, guys. I mean, she's like, I definitely won.
That's cool.
Adorable.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great flick, and you should watch all of the special features.
Well, next we have a movie called The Class of 1999. The DVD says that it's showcasing Stacy Keach and Malcolm McDowell. And Hired to Teach, Programmed to Kill, guys. Class of 1999. Now, before I go further, I did want to mention this, is that it's done by the same director. What is his name? His name is Mark Lester. Also did Class of 1984 that we covered back in 82, if I remember correctly, which is a nasty little film about gangs taking over schools. Well, the same theme happens with Class of 1999. Mark L. Lester, by the way, guys, we covered him recently here on the Fandom Podcast Network because he directed Commando. Yes, there we go. I said that too loud. Sorry. Anyway, Class of 1999, guys, made only about 1,400,000 in theater. Poster says the ultimate teaching machine is out of control. A government experiment finally makes schools safe for everyone except the students. 3 ex-military robots are reprogrammed as teachers and secretly placed in a school where most students are part of organized gangs. They begin to respond violently to unruly students, and their military training starts to take over. Directed, of course, Mark L. Lester. Stars Bradley Gregg, Tracy Lynn, Malcolm McDowell, several others too, guys. I kind of bring that up again real quick here. Of course, Pam Grier is in this. Patrick Kilpatrick, who's played a lot of bad guys in this. Tracy Lynn, I remember her short career. She just kind of stopped acting for a while. But Kyle, give us some trivia on Class of 1999.
So Malcolm McDowell only worked for 2 days on this film, so he was really committed. It was the debut film of one Rose McGowan. She's in a couple of scenes with Pam Grier and John P. Ryan, which is one of the reasons why this film has become a bit of a cult classic in its own right as well. And this is an official sequel to Class of 1984, which was confirmed by the director, Mark L. Lester. But instead of the punks led by Timothy Van Patten going after the teacher played by Perry King in that film, it is the gangs, Black Hawks and Razorhead, that join forces to go after the android teachers.
I don't know if you guys have watched this recently, but I bought it on DVD and watched it. And the beginning of it starts off like the beginning of Escape from New York, where there's like this kind of voice that talks about with this, and it shows like this funny digital readout of where the gangs control the city and where the schools are, and the police don't go in there anymore. And it's very interesting. It's very funny. I'll go into it more later. But Kyle, have you seen Class of 1999?
Honestly, I haven't. I know I probably have seen bits and pieces of it somewhere on cable during the day, but not realizing what it was at the time, because this is definitely one of those movies that definitely made the cycles on like late night Showtime or HBO.
Well, I did want to mention that it is free on YouTube. I found it that way. Aaron has seen Class of 84, and we both like the film. It's one of those films that it's kind of a nasty film. Things get really bad in it at times for certain people, but it's a classic 80s. Like, we're taking all the chances with this type of film, and we both like it because it's dark that way. And I asked my wife if she'd seen 1999. Like, nah, I heard that it sucks. And I start watching it, and I'm not saying that she liked it, but she found it interesting. But I actually liked Class of 1999, especially for the fashions.
Yeah. Hair.
Lacey, did you see Class of 1999?
I saw that it was on the list. I looked at the posters and I was like, android, cyborg person, weird. Why does it have nipples? I don't understand. So I looked it up and found out that it was the sequel to 1984. And I was just like, yeah, no, I don't. The first one, I saw it. It was hard to watch. I was done with that. I wasn't going to watch the sequel.
What's interesting, though, is that it's a good case of the VHS cover kind of lying to you a little bit, because it's mostly Pam Grier and the two other actors just walking around and being menacing, and there is one scene where one of them opens up his mouth and then you can see like part of the robot teeth in the skull. That's pretty much what it is. It's more about these gangs that have to work together after fighting each other to battle these androids that are now enjoying killing people in the school. And there's some very entertaining battles in this. It's not as bad as you think. It's got definitely a cult feel to it, and you got to watch it for the fashion. I gotta tell you that right now. So there you go. All right, next we have Death by Temptation. This came out in May of 1990, and it made a little over $2 million in its theatrical release. Stars Kadeem Harrison, James Bond III, and Bill Nunn. And a gorgeous temptress who is a succubus in disguise is murdering African-American men in New York City. It is up to Joel, a young man training to be a minister, his friend Kay, who is an actor and a cop who investigates supernatural activity to stop her. This is also on YouTube. You can watch it for free. Director James Bond III also stars him, Kadeem Harrison, Bill Nunn, Samuel L. Jackson in a small role, and Cynthia Bond. Kyle, give us some trivia on Death by Temptation, please.
House where the film was shot was owned by Lawrence Fishburne, who was married to producer Hannah Moss. Despite being made 5 years prior to Vampire in Brooklyn, it wasn't available until 1997 in Sweden as a direct-to-video release due to some common themes such as African-American vampire in New York. It was promoted as a sequel to Vampire in Brooklyn. I thoughts.
I like how some of these films overseas are like, we're just going to call this a sequel to this other film that kind of has similarities to it. I could not finish this film. It was a tough watch. It was kind of boring too. And if parts of this was filmed in Lawrence Fishburne's house, that's great. It seemed like they only used, it feels like there was only like a bar they filmed in, and Kadeem Harrison's character's room, and then the bed that this temptress killed everybody in. It was kind of funny and then kind of not. It just had a weird tone to it, and I didn't like it. Anyone seen this, Kyle?
Yeah, this movie's off the rails. I remember watching this on cable one night because it was Kadeem Harrison, and I was a big fan of A Different World at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Timmy, of course, you had a great role in White Man Can't Jump as well, but this movie is so off the rails and just bizarre in its storytelling and some of the effects and camera shots they use, and it's boring. It truly is. It's boring, and it's just bizarre. I'm just like, were you guys watching and doing the funky ganja while you were filming this? Because it's just out there at times.
Yeah. Lacey, have you seen Death by Temptation?
Yes. Like you guys, I love Kadeem Hardison. He is, I mean, just, from a different world. This movie it felt like two movies. It felt like a talking movie where, there's lots of conversation and just whatever. And then like weird, bad special effects, which would have been fine. I mean, because they were along the lines of like, it kind of felt like the first werewolf in what was it, American Werewolf in London, right? It had kind of like the teeth coming out and things like that.
Right.
But it felt disjointed. I saw it like the one time way back when, probably on HBO or something.
The low budget of this film definitely showed. Yeah. And
Very much
I
so.
feel like the poster, they're just taking Kadeem Harrison's character right out of a different world almost, because he's wearing those round glasses that he always wears. So, which was a popular thing at the time. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Kadeem Hardison, the reason that I think they took his name for the character on Leverage from him, just as like a tribute to him, the character Hardison.
Oh, very cool. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Next film we got here is a movie that I really wanted to watch. A Show of Force. Only made $152,000 in the theater. Show of Force. An American journalist in Puerto Rico in 1978 investigates the death of nationalists who may have been murdered by the police. And the poster says, a show of force. When a person murders, it's a crime. When a government murders, it's a cover-up. Director Bruno Barreto stars Amy Irving, Robert Duvall, Andy Garcia, Lou Diamond Phillips, Kevin Spacey, and Erica Estrada. Kyle, you got a bit of trivia for us here?
Yeah, but first of all, I have a problem with this. How in the world on your main cover you have, I mean, Robert Duvall, Lou Diamond Phillips, Andy Garcia, great. How do you not have Poncherello as listed as one of your actors on your main cover? I'm just saying.
I know. Ponch, come on, man.
The great Eric Estrada. Come on.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Only a little bit of trivia on this. Based on the 1978 cover-up of the shooting deaths of Carlos Soto Arrivi and Arnaldo Dario Rosado at Sierra Maravilla Mountain in Puerto Rico. I cannot say that 3 times fast.
It's tough. Yeah. I read about this, and so I found DVDs online, but they're more expensive than I wanted to pay for it. I almost rented it. I like the topic. It sounds interesting. I like Amy Irving, but I didn't get around to watching this, so I don't know if it was any good. Kyle, have you seen it?
I have not seen it. So,
Lacey?
I feel like I saw this. I almost want to say for an assignment or something. Like I want to say it was in like my government class or something. Like they said pick a movie that has to do with X, Y, and Z, and I think something was just like on TV that night or something. I feel like I've seen this. I remember Amy Irving and her little like pencil skirt suit, like being all grumpy faced, like the middle, because back then if you were a woman and you'd have to wear like shoulder pads and a pencil skirt in order to be taken seriously in government or as a lawyer or whatever. But yeah, I do remember this. I don't remember the plot. I mean, I remember the basics, but I couldn't tell you what happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's one of those that's on my radar. I would like to find it. I could not find a copy on YouTube, only trailers and stuff. So, but it's one of those that I want to chase and eventually watch, because I am fascinated by this type of movie that's based on something that was recently happened, and where there was cover-ups and stuff like that. I enjoy that. So, all right, next we have Bird on a Wire, made over $138 million in its original theatrical run. The poster has Mel and Goldie. He's every woman's dream and one woman's nightmare. Bird on a Wire. An old flame discovers that her ex-boyfriend from the past is a relocated FBI informant out to stop the bad guys. Directed by John Badham, stars Mel Gibson, Goldie Hawn, and David Carradine. Kyle, give us some trivia on Bird on a Wire.
So Goldie Hawn did most of her own stunts after being convinced by Mel Gibson to do so. She was originally reluctant to perform them, fearing the harsh and overwhelming nature of the tasks. She was eventually so pleased with her stunt performances that she kept the stuntman's jacket after filming resumed, and as of 2017 still exhibits it next to her Oscars statuette. Now, this one I find interesting. I kind of knew about this, but I think it says something about this movie. Originally, this film was supposed to star Kurt Russell opposite his real-life partner, Goldie Hawn. However, Russell had already committed to star alongside Sylvester Stallone in Tango and Cash, which was filming at the same time but released several months before this. Russell suggested that director John Badham ask his Tequila Sunrise co-star Mel Gibson if he would be interested, and Badham was pleasantly surprised when Gibson accepted.
Thank God. Thank God we got Tango and Cash. Thank God.
Yes. If we had lost out on Tango and Cash because of Bird on a Wire, that is a sliding doors situation that I do not want to even consider.
Yes. Well, does that mean Mel Gibson does Tango and Cash?
No.
Yeah, man. Okay, so first of all, I was showcasing the Blu-ray that I got here, and Lacey, this is a little tribute to you. First of all, I don't think I've ever seen this movie all the way through. For whatever reason, I don't know. I just never really watched it. So I actually had the Blu-ray, and I found the DVD because I got the Kino Lorber version on Blu-ray. Got it kind of cheap. I think it was like $10. And then I found the DVD version of it. And after watching the film, Lacey, I took your idea and did the whole Blu-ray 2-disc DVD, Blu-ray collection there. So I added that to because I'm keeping this one. I actually enjoyed this film. I thought it was fun, and there's some performances in here that were entertaining. And I think my favorite scene is when he goes to the doctor whom he worked on her ranch, and there might have been some sexual tension there, and he gets shot in the butt, so he has to have some buckshot taken out of the butt. Lacey, your thoughts on Bird on a Wire?
This is kind of quintessential Mel Gibson from, the era that gave us, Bird on a Wire. You've got Lethal Weapon. He's got that kind of innocence, but also it's hard to be innocent and carefree and also like an informant or a gruff cop, you know what I mean? And he did that very well. He's very charming and he's hilarious. And that one scene you're talking about reminded me of Notting Hill, where Julia Roberts was like, "Oh no, Mel does his own ass stuff." Yes,
that's right.
No, ass work. He does his own ass work. Goldie Hawn is, national treasure. I don't think I'm out of bounds by saying that. She is absolutely adorable in everything she does. She's hilarious.
She was the standout for me in this, to be perfectly honest with you.
She's so good.
She looked great. She was funny, Yeah.
And the thing is, she can put her foot down and be taken seriously, but also at this, like in 30 seconds later, freak out because of something that's happening and there's a cockroach in her hair or whatever. And she's like, "Wah!" And it's hilarious because she can go from 0 to nutcase in 10 seconds. And it's hilarious, but she can also like button it down and she's like, oh. And then she's taken seriously again. She's
where would you rate this movie on Goldie Films?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Well,
right?
Would you rate it in the top 3, top 5?
I'd give it top 5. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle, your thoughts on Bird on a Wire?
It's a fun movie. It's definitely Goldie Hawn's movie. I agree with Lacey on that.
Yeah, she kind of steals it from Mel, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, Mel was the bigger star at the time, but I think, I don't know if I put this in her top 3. I'm kind of been looking at her IMDb. I mean, you got Private Benjamin, you've got Overboard, you've
Protocol.
got Death Becomes Her, First Wives Club. There's and just all of her TV work and everything like that. Shampoo back in the day.
Swing Shift.
Yep. So it just this is a fun movie. I think it takes place. It's kind of one of those of the time films. It's an interesting pairing because when I've watched this movie in the past, I was like, this was written for. I'm thinking in my head before I did find out about the trivia years later. This was meant to be Goldie and Kurt. The way this was written, the dialogue between them, this was meant to be Goldie and Kurt. And I think this is I think it's a much better movie with Goldie and Kurt, personally.
The only thing that bugs me about Mel Gibson's, like, he has that, he has a mullet basically, like he always had for that time. But then he like puts it in a little tiny ponytail behind him. And it's like, either cut it or don't do the little tiny ponytail. You got to grow that longer in order to earn that. I'm sorry. It's just, it was one of the things that just bugged me about it. But anyway, I did enjoy the film. I felt like I'd seen it for the first time. So
I feel that he pulls off the pony nub better than Steven Seagal. I'm just saying.
Well, Steven Seagal grew his longer though, so it worked for a short time. But the little tiny nub in his head, it doesn't work for me. So, all right, guys, the next film we have is Cadillac Man, made a little over 27 million in its theatrical run. It's labeled a comedy. We'll talk about it in a moment. And the poster says, "Legend, lover, salesman, a way with the words, a way with the women, and way over his head." Stars Robin Williams and Tim Robbins. Joey gets 2 days to sell 12 cars to keep his job and keep his girlfriends happy. It gets worse. He's juggling 3 buyers when a guy with a machine gun crashes into the car dealership and takes everyone hostage. Directed by Roger Donaldson. And of course, stars Robin Williams, Tim Robbins, and Pamela Reed. Kyle, give us some trivia on Cadillac Man.
Well, this one's just for you because I know how much you love you some Fran Drescher. Her dog Chester receives a film credit in the movie as Chester Dresser. Al Pacino was the original choice for Joey when he passed. Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito were considered for the role before Robin Williams was cast. And
now, just to clarify, hold on, you read that kind of quick. When he passed on the role, not when he died.
Sorry. The film confused critics and audiences at the time as the studio pitched it as a dark comedy, but it was widely felt to be a straight drama. As such, the film was a commercial flop and it was released on video rental just a few months later.
I actually remember seeing this in the theater, and I remember walking out and going, that's not what the trailer said. And that's not like Robin Williams is supposed to be funny in this. I didn't find him funny in this film, and I have not seen it since. I remember, it just didn't sit with me walking out of it. So that makes sense. It's one of those things that kind of mislabeled itself or something. I don't know. I mean, I know Robin Williams is a comedic actor, but this movie came across as a drama. Kyle?
I think part of the problem with this movie is it's so hard to see Robin Williams as this guy who's playing like 5-6 different women and being this smarmy, unlikable guy.
Yeah.
Because we love Robin Williams. And it's, and Robin Williams is an amazing actor, can do a lot of different performances. This was just like a square peg in a round hole kind of situation a little bit with this.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I would have loved to see Michael Keaton in this role. I think Michael Keaton would have killed this role.
Interesting. Lacey's got thoughts. What you got, Lacey?
I got a recast for you.
Okay.
Bill Paxton's character from True Lies. In this film, that makes this film a comedy.
Okay, so first of all, True Lies hadn't come out yet, but this could be like a prequel.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the character. Okay, because basically, it's hard to play womanizer when he. I'm not saying that Bill Paxton doesn't have like genuine like feelings but the way his character in True Lies played everything, he didn't have he wasn't concerned about anything. He was just, this is it.
Right.
Robin Williams' character, he cares about all of these women. Like he's in love with all of these women, or at least invested in all of these women. And that makes it less funny.
Yeah.
Because it's not, these are not toss away situations. Yeah. And so he's trying to fix all the things and do all the stuff. And honestly, Lori Petty, I think she kind of steals the show. The crazy
do you have this on physical media, by the way?
Yeah. I'm at my parents' house right now, so I don't have any of my stuff. I didn't bring it with me because
gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, I've got this on DVD. It's not, I don't know that it was released on Blu-ray at this point, but yeah, I mean, and it's a huge cast, but the thing is that Tim Robbins is the gunman, right? And he is, the reason he's there is because he thinks his girlfriend or wife is cheating on him with someone at the dealership.
Right.
Well, she is. It's not Robin Williams, but he takes the fall because the other guy is like too much of a coward to say anything. And so he's kind of the stand-up guy, and it's hard to make comedy out of a hostage situation.
This you're right. And it's funny, it's interesting too, because this is one of those movies that have just fallen, it's not in the ether anymore. It's just fallen away. And that's what I love about doing these podcasts, because we dig these up again and remind people, this was a thing, and this is one of the movies in his illustrious career that is Robin Williams that just kind of got pushed underneath the rug. So all right, guys, I know you've seen this one. Next, we have Back to the Future Part 3, made over $244 million in its theatrical run. And, of course, stranded in 1955, Marty McFly learns about the death of Doc Brown in 1885 and must travel back in time to save him. With no fuel readily available for the DeLorean, the two must figure out how to escape the Old West before Emmett is murdered. Of course, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Mary Steenburgen, of course, are the main cast there. Kyle, give us some trivia there, please.
I'm sorry, but you cannot address me as Kyle for the rest of this segment of this podcast. I will be known as Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. All right, Clint. give us some trivia on Back to the Future Part 3.
When filming the scene where Buford Mad Dog Tannen tries to lynch Marty, Michael J. Fox was accidentally hanged, rendering him unconscious for a short time. He records this in his autobiography, Lucky Man. Clint Eastwood, was asked for permission about his name being used for Marty in the film. He consented and was said to be tickled by the homage. I still to this day am so heartwarmed. I feel the love. But according to the book Billy Gibbons' Rock and Roll Gearhead, ZZ Top was hanging around the set and was asked to be the town band. During one take, the camera broke. While waiting for the camera to be repaired, Michael J. Fox asked if they would play Hey Good Looking, which they did. Afterwards, more requests were played. 2 hours later, someone inquired if the camera had been repaired. Robert Zemeckis replied that if it had been fixed for quite a while, he just didn't want to stop the party, and that had evolved. Free ZZ Top concert, everybody.
That was great. Okay, guys, so I don't know about you guys, but when I approach Time Warp, and if we're talking about a sequel, I always try to watch the first one, or if there's a second one before it, just to kind of get you kind of filled up. Lacey is nodding her head. She goes, yeah. So I ended up watching the entire trilogy, and I watched the first one and the second one with my wife, and it was nice to go back there. And my favorite of the three actually is 2. And I know a lot of people refer to this one as not as good, and a lot of people don't watch it when they do the rewatching. I've heard that as well. I've grown a little more fond of this one as time goes by. But I got to ask you guys a question here, because I've come to, I don't know if you want to call this a hot take. I honestly feel the biggest star in this series for me is Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson in 2 and in this one just cooks. I mean, he is so crucial to this trilogy in so many ways, and he has so many moments, especially in 2 when he's got to play his older self going back and giving it to his younger self, and then we get like 2, we get them going back to the dance. And then him playing Mad Buford in this third one is so funny, especially when he doesn't understand some of the phrases. He's just so good in this. Am I off pace saying that he kind of steals this series? Lacey, go ahead, Lacey.
I love his character. I love his character as long as he's not the 18-year-old Biff, because 18-year-old Biff, in my opinion, some of his actions are irredeemable.
Yeah, he's pretty much like about to rape,
Right. And so that turned me off for a long time. Now, the character was well played. It was written to be played that way. I think what kind of turned my head on that was watching Tom Wilson. He was at some convention or something, and he plays guitar. And he has a song that he wrote, basically, Don't Call Me Biff. And it's one of the funniest things. It's kind of a little kind of folksy thing where he talks about how, I've done other things. I'm not just this one guy. And it's a funny song. I mean, it's comical. And I was just like, okay, this guy's hilarious. I have to go back and watch him in these things, because I was turned off by the character so much because he played it so well.
Right.
And, with that being, especially with nowadays, like Me Too movement, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of things you kind of hit different now. You know what I mean? Like when I saw this in 1990 the first one was 86, I guess, or whatever. When you saw it in 1986, that wasn't that was a boys will be boys thing. Now you watch it and you're like, oh, dang, no, so I do think that he now steals the show. I don't think that I thought so at the time, just because I was not a fan of the character himself.
You're not supposed to like him.
The wacky, creepy prospector guy, whatever his the old timer in the West.
Yeah.
That's the funny character. So yeah.
Kyle?
I think he's right there with Lloyd and Fox as far as performances in this, but I can't just say he steals the show from Christopher Lloyd. I can't get myself to say that because Doc Brown is one of the most iconic characters in movie history. And I mean, obviously Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, but I mean, I'm not going to downgrade him either. He's right there with him. I think it's that grouping makes this movie, and you can't take one out and replace it because it changes everything and the chemistry's off.
Yeah.
And I think it's the group of them together that makes these movies so outstanding.
What's interesting? Oh yeah, Lacey, go.
By the way, not this weekend, but next weekend in Dallas, the entire cast is going to be there at a convention, and it's not just the main four. It's the guy who played Goldie. It's the the guy who played Marvin Berry. It's like the whole like there's like 15 different cast members that are supposed to be there.
It's your cousin Marvin. Listen to this.
Even the guy who played the dad when Crispin Glover refused to come back.
Right.
The guy who was like the upside down guy, like he's going to be there. Like everyone's going to be there.
Yeah, I watched that specifically in 2 because you can see there's like a shaded moment where he's like at the door and he's not really there. Yeah, this is one of the series too I've always upgraded from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, and I think it was the DVD releases in the early 2000s where there was like a problem with one of the discs and they had to be recalled and you had to mail it in and get a replacement because it came with a set. And I've had the Blu-rays, and I remember there was like the 25th anniversary, there was the 30th anniversary, the 35th anniversary, and I had the Blu-ray. I'm like, I'm not gonna upgrade. What do? I get the 4K Blu-ray and digital copy upgrade. I'm like, all right, damn it, I'll do it.
But to be fair, the 4K upgrade was part of that Amazon buy to get like that sale that happened about 6 months ago. So it was a good deal. It was like $30. It wasn't like it was.
And I thank you for letting me know about that, Lacey.
Absolutely.
So yeah. All right, guys. I think this is the last film here that we'll be discussing here, and this is an interesting one. I just finished rewatching this one. This is 1990's Firebirds. And we got some of the posters here, guys, which are always fun to read from. Firebirds, a rousing rock'em sock'em aerial adventure. If you enjoyed Top Gun, you'll have a great time. Co-stars Nicolas Cage, Tommy Lee Jones, and Sean Young. Elite Apache helicopter pilots are tasked with destroying powerful armed drug cartels operating in South America. Director David Green stars Nicolas Cage, Tommy Lee Jones, and Sean Young. Kyle, please give us some trivia on Firebirds.
The original title of the film was Night of the Apache, infamously known among critics as Top Gun with helicopters. While Touchstone Pictures, a subsidiary of Disney, had a hand in the production of this film, they had very little to do with its release and marketing outside the U.S., selling the theatrical and video distribution rights onto independent companies instead. Despite the well-known names in the cast, this movie debuted straight to video rental in a great many countries.
Okay, so I recently just watched this again. This is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love.
I am the greatest. I am the
greatest. Nicolas Cage is over the top, full of himself, trying to hit on Sean Young for half the film. Tommy Lee Jones, of course, is his. Oh, I'm dropping the Blu-ray here. Jesus, bad Blu-ray.
Kevin, as you drop the Blu-ray, it reminds me. You need to drop the little eye spectacle in front of your eye to do the rest of this podcast,
and wear panties over my head, right?
Until we figure it out. Until you figure out your eye dominance problem.
Yeah, so that was part of the plot, was that Nicolas Cage had a problem with one of his eyes was more dominant than the others, and you can't do that with the special headgear that you have to wear as a pilot. By the way, also known as Wings of the Apache in other countries as well. Of course, we get Mr. I'm in every military leader guy ever. Dale Dye is in this as well. Mary Ellen Trainor. So, guys, this is basically, Top Gun for helicopter pilots. Basically,
with Bill Collins doing this soundtrack for a lot of this too.
This is true. But what's interesting about this film is I get a little bit of what's the Iron Eagle feel to this.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. Because this movie didn't have the budget that Top Gun had. It does a lot of aerial battles and training stuff, very similar to what Iron Eagle did, is that they have a lot of close-ups of the vehicle shooting things, and then explosions happen. You can tell they're models. And so when they actually do go to battle with the drug cartel, which is what this whole thing is about, is battling drug cartels, it's done in that way. You can see where they cut corners. And of course, they also introduce the then high-tech, digital training, with the cheesy stuff they do with that. But and Nicolas Cage is just over the top. But when you watch the film, none of these actors are in the beginning credits. If you watch the film, they show up later in the end credits. It's because I think that during this time they weren't sure where these actors were. Because they filmed it in 89, 87, maybe 89. Kyle, your thoughts on Firebird?
I'm like you. I love this movie. This movie is a guilty pleasure, but I have no shame with it. But what's a couple of things. Sean Young is coming off of a lot of things being said about her in this movie beforehand. You were talking a whole Batman issues and other crazy stuff. Nick Cage is coming off of nobody knows what the hell Nick Cage is as an actor. One minute he's doing something phenomenal that's giving him an Oscar nomination. The next minute he's doing something batshit crazy.
We'll be talking about Wild at Heart later.
Yeah. And he's playing both ways in this, which is crazy. There's moments where he's just crazy off the chain Nick Cage, and he's also trying to be serious. This movie works, Kevin, because Tommy Lee Jones grounds it.
Yeah, he does.
Tommy Lee Jones is amazing in this movie. And there is a great scene when they're trying to help Nick Cage's character with his eye dominance problem, and he's trying to do it. It's Nick Cage is like co-pilot, Tommy Lee Jones and Nick Cage driving in a military Jeep, and they've got this like periscope device on Nick Cage's head wrapped around a pair of panties, and they drive up next to a general and the general's wife, and the general's wife is that man wearing panties on his head? And it's just like, just how they play it off is great. This is such a fun movie. Yes. Is it the greatest movie? No, but is it fun? It's fun for the performances, and it is a great cast in this movie, Kevin.
Lacey,
yeah.
You wanted me to, I'm showcasing the Blu-ray that I got. That is a Kino Lorber issue. Well, guess what? I also had the DVD. Guess what I did? I did the DVD Blu-ray combo, just as you said.
Gotcha.
I did, yeah. So I bought a bunch of the Blu-rays that have the both.
I have the Blu-ray that's the alternate picture, the with the orange on the left. Like that's the one I have.
Yeah, that's the main movie poster there.
That's the most iconic one. Yeah. Lacey, your thoughts on Firebird?
Okay, so I really wanted Sean Young's character to be a little bit more
badass.
Yeah, she's a good actress. Like, she's been in other stuff where I loved her. This was not my favorite role I don't think it's her. I think it was the writing. I mean, I think that they didn't write her strong enough, because I think it's probably because of the time. I mean, it was 1990, 1988, 89, somewhere in there. So it was still kind of, any woman who was in a position of power like that, especially being, like a combat pilot, which wasn't technically done at the time. They have to be written as like soft in certain ways just to maintain their femininity. And I don't think that was necessary, because she's beautiful. She's obviously got the man on the hook. I mean, there was no reason to like soften her character. And so I felt like her character was like disserviced. Otherwise, fun storyline, weird storyline. My only thing where I was like, wait, what? Was when like the cartel man was also a like wicked pilot. Like the cartel guy, the head cartel guy, just happens to be the like best the best, super secret military pilot ever. Like what? Okay, guys, if he was that good, why is he like?
Because he had military training, as they said, terrorist training in Europe and in was it North Korea?
It just struck me as odd.
The only thing I want to add to this, Kevin, is if this movie is remade today, it stars either Glenn Powell, Ryan Gosling, Sydney Sweeney, and Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones is back. Yes, that's funny. That's funny.
I can see it being a gender bent show where Sydney Sweeney is where you flip it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a guilty pleasure, and I was looking forward to talking about this one. And it's one of those that was only on VHS and hard to find VHS, and then finally they reissued. Thank you, Kino Lorber, for doing so. So yeah, otherwise hard to find otherwise. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that has been a Time Warp 1990 May movies and pop culture. And of course, fun little thing that we like to do here for May of 1990 is ask the big question. These movies were released in 1990, but filmed in 89 or earlier. Which of these films felt like an 80s film or a 90s film? Lacey or Kyle, who wants to go first? Kyle, you go.
I think for as felt like 80s films, it's Tales of the Darkside and Firebirds.
Yeah, definitely.
90s films, I would actually have to say Cadillac Man is probably feels like a 90s film, and
Bird on a Wire could also be a 90s film, I think.
I think honestly though, this is the bunch so far that we've done in this Time Warp for this month where most of them feel like they could mostly all be 80s films.
I would feel that way for Class of 1999. Yet there's a few choice. Like I said, you got to see it just for what they're wearing. There's a few choice outfits that do feel 90s. And what I find funny too is what they thought 1999 was going to look like. And I did not say this earlier, but one of the things I loved about Class of 1999 was their version of what future versions of cars would look like in 1999, and that was one of the standouts for me. Lacey, what say you?
I kind of feel like these all could go either direction because some of the storylines were a little bit more, kind of, even the comedies were had a little bit of darkness to them, right?
Yeah.
But all of the wardrobe, even, Bird on a Wire, even Goldie's outfits, and you look at Cadillac Man and like Fran Drescher's outfits and all the other ladies in this. Looking at Lori Petty and her, that was crazy 80s, that kind of thing. So I feel like almost every movie, well, the ones that I saw, could have gone either way. I think the only one for me that's definitely like super 80s is Tales from the Darkside.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all for good reasons. Yeah. All for good reasons. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Let's get your final thoughts on this month of films for May of 1990. Kyle, I'm going to start with you.
Interesting month. I don't think, outside of Back to the Future 3, I don't think there's anything in here that I would say makes a super impact. It's a fun little month of films. But I think Back to the Future 3 just blows everything else out of the water for this month. There's no competition.
What about you, Lacey?
I gotta say, for me, it comes down to the comedies, which for me does not include Cadillac Man. I would say definitely Back to the Future 3, definitely Bird on a Wire had some of those comical moments. Probably my two favorite out of the ones that I saw. Other than that, I think that there were some good movies. They're just maybe not my taste.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Back to the Future 3. I'm enjoying that movie more and more and more. And I can't watch the trilogy. I can't make it just Back to Future 1 and 2. I have to watch all of it. And because there's stuff that kind of ties back, references. And it was a great way to end the series as well. I absolutely loved it. The movie that surprised me the most, actually, that I hadn't seen was Class of 1999. That one I enjoyed for its campiness a lot more. And Tales from the Darkside, not being a big horror guy, thoroughly enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. Love the Steve Buscemi, and I just love Steve Buscemi with the Mummy and how it was a thing with him, and Christian Slater in there as well. It's just great to see all those guys get together. But let's go ahead and tease next month, June of 1990, guys. We've got some big ones here. June 1990, movies and pop culture. And we got a lot to talk about. We got Frankenhooker, China O'Brien 2, Guns, and Andy Sidaris film, Kyle. Total Recall, Another 48 Hours, Dick Tracy, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, Betsy's Wedding, RoboCop 2, Days of Thunder, and Ghost Dad.
Is that 5 sequels?
That's a lot, isn't it?
Kevin, the only thing I'm going to say for that podcast, I will stop being Clint Eastwood and I will be Kyle Trickle for the rest of that podcast.
We'll also discuss some TV debuts like The Great Getaway Game, Monopoly, and Who's the Boss, and the CBS Sunday Movie. We've got some stuff to talk about. So there we go. Guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This is the Fandom Podcast Network. And again, hit our QR code there if you're watching the video. Appreciate the support there. Take us to our website. And we also want you guys know that the Fandom Podcast Network can be found pretty much on all socials, X and, of course, Instagram and Facebook. But we're also now on Blue Sky at FanPod Network. So make you check us out there. Kyle, how can we find you, sir?
I don't know. It depends on if I'm driving NASCAR or not next week. But you can find me at A Kyle W on Blue Sky and Twitter, and at A Kyle Fandom on Instagram and Threads, and of course all over the great pages on Facebook of the Fandom Podcast
Network. Lacey, where are you nowadays?
I am happily joining you on a podcast tomorrow for just one of the guys.
All right, definitely. But you're still checking in on Letterboxd, right?
Yeah, I'm still checking out Letterboxd, and I'm on Discord. But
at
I've
Lacey
kind
Pants.
of gone off social media these days. It's just too much politics. Right. Yeah.
Lacey Pants on Discord, and of course Letterboxd. I'm also on Letterboxd. You can find me on Letterboxd, Discord, Threads, Instagram, and X at Spartan_Phoenix, and on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix. Please, if you can rate us on your podcast, podcast platform, give us a review. Also, we'd appreciate some love on TeePublic as well. You can buy a Time Warp T-shirt, as well as many other shirts. And Lacey's got the Fandom Podcast Network circular logo T-shirt. Look at that. I love that one. It's a great one there. And you can also buy not just T-shirts, but you can also buy hats and cups and pillows and all kinds of other fun stuff there. So anyway, this is Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback Show. Thank you guys all for joining us. Very much appreciate the support. Please join us on YouTube, and also subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. We'd appreciate that. Well, Lacey, thank you so much again for joining us for another episode of Time Warp. Appreciate you.
Hooray. I'm very excited. I made it through like 12 cough drops, and I didn't have a fit while on audio. So I'm very happy about that.
If we would have recorded this when we originally decided to, you would have sounded like, what was it? Harvey Weinstein? Is that who you said?
Harvey Firestein.
Yeah, Harvey Firestein. That
wrong
works.
Harvey. Wrong Harvey.
So I'm having to concentrate to make my voice this way, but basically, what about my mother? Like, you remember when he was when he was running from all the aliens in Independence Day? That I've got to call my mother in Atlanta.
That's right. Make sure I get the right Harvey on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And Kyle, as always, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I got this book of tales that I'm going to read from. If I'm not back next episode, you'll know why.
I'm just saying, if Deborah Harry was, giving me time to read stuff, I would read really slow. I'm just saying. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you again so much for this special edition of Time Warp 1990 May Movies and Pop Culture. Until next time, we will see you back in time. Until next time. See you later.